Hey, everybody, and welcome to Loudon Agile Network. We are excited to have you today with us. We have a special guest speaker, Bhavani Krishnan, who I've known for years. Bhavani, how long has it been? Like 7, 8 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So excited to have you here in our forum. Bhavani here is going to talk to us about why organizational agility is imperative. I will let Bhavani talk about all the wonderful things about her topic. But when she brought this topic and I thought about something, so I'm a gardener. I love growing vegetables, growing flowers, and to me, it's just like gardening. If you don't have the right kind of dirt, if you don't have the right kind of environment, you can buy the best plant in the world and give it water and give it sun, but it's not going to grow unless it is given the right environment. And so similarly, right, if you're trying to bring agility in your organization and your organization is not giving it the nurturing and the care, and it doesn't have the right culture, and if they are not able to make changes to help Agile survive, it's not going to survive. I think that's the way I understood it, Bhavani, but then I'm going to learn a lot from you today. So I'm happy to pass the microphone on to you. So on behalf of everybody, I welcome Bhavani. Bhavani, all yours.
Thank you. Again, thanks for joining, everybody. I know for most of you that are in the East Coast, it's 7 o'clock. So I appreciate the commitment and the interest and also the encouragement for the local Agile Network people. Before I get started, I want to make sure that y'all can see my screen. Toby, can you let me know? Are you seeing the organizational agility? That's the big screen that you're seeing? Perfect.
Yep.
All right. So again, hello, everybody. Hope your day was uneventful and you are all able to save some energy and are excited about the webinar, right? Especially on the topic of organizational agility. So little introduction about me. I have lived in Loudoun County, Virginia for the past 14 years. Prior to that in Connecticut and California. I started practicing Agile officially in 2006 with CA Technologies. I think Raleigh bought them over. But I've worked with many of the Fortune 100, 500 companies, nonprofit organizations, federal agencies, and currently I work for a great company called Agile Velocity as one of their enterprise coach, and I'm supporting a major airline's Agile Transformation effort now. So a little bit about me on the personal side. I have 2 boys. And one recently graduated from Virginia Tech, and he's working. And another one in 7th grade, aspiring to go to MIT, only to beat his brother superior. They are super interesting, and they're 10 years apart. A good tidbit about me, I love coffee, a good Colombian black coffee, and I can drink about, 4 to 5 cups a day, easy. Someday I hope to even, roast my own coffee bean and, brew and all of that. I have yet to see a good horror movie. I have not seen anything that has really scared me. So that's about me. All right. So with that, let's jump into the content for today. I plan to cover 5 major points today. Agile in the past years, the current state of Agile according to Agile 2023 survey and report, the potential future for Agile beyond IT, and what is organizational agility. That's what we're talking about, right? So I hope to cover the elements, the benefits, the challenges in the way, and then, maybe even provide some steps for implementing organizational agility and leave you with some key takeaways. All right, sound good? I'm hoping that's what you all signed up for. All right, well, let's get started. So decades of Agile adoption, right? It's hard to believe it's been over 2 decades since the Agile Manifesto was written, right? And in the 20 plus years of Agile, it has been widely adopted with a lot of success, but still there are, like mixed results, right? Wouldn't you agree? Yes, no, all right, yep, I see the pointer, thank you. All right, so despite the mass adoption of Agile practices, most organizations have had mixed results, right? One with delivering the right things at the right time. And at the same time, many organizations have also implemented Agile principles and practices in like varying degrees and have seen significant benefits. But the gap is, while practicing Agile at the team level, and that tends to be successful, lack of organizational agility still results in delays, right? Misunderstanding of requirements, and sometimes even unhappy customers. So to, again, channel what Toby said earlier, you could have, the best gardener, you could have the best intention, but if you're not like tending to the roots of it, then you're not going to see any results from it. So that's very similar to the organizational agility as well. Now, so the mass adoption of Agile in the past 20 years, and that worked for, team level and maybe even some at the system level. But where are we today, right? There was a survey and a report published, the 2023 State of Agile report, and it published some interesting information. It looked at like many aspects of Agile, and I want to be able to highlight just on 3 things, right? What does the industry say are the reasons for adoption? What are the most used Agile techniques, and what are the benefits seen from the adoption? And I will tie it back to what we are going to be talking about. So according to the survey, the top 5 reasons for adoption has been, again, faster value delivery, the ability to respond to changing markets, the increase in productivity, although there's a difference between being busy and being productive, and more on that later. Improve alignment between business and IT, and then, of course, better quality of products, right? So there's no surprises there. Maybe the percentages have varied over the years, but the priorities kind of remain the same, right? Next, the article talked about the most used Agile techniques. And among that, again, daily Scrum, retrospectives, and the sprint or the iteration planning as the 3 most used Agile techniques. So the key takeaway from here is, after 20 years or 20 some years, we've got the practices at the team level, right? Now, the next opportunity is at the higher level of the organization. The practices and principles may be the same, but they unlock a different capability at the different levels of the organization, right? So many of you that are familiar with Scrum at Scale, that they recommend executive action team, right? And their primary function is to remove the impediments that cannot be removed by the members of the Scrum of Scrum. And their focus is to create improved alignment between the various levels of organization, and then enable faster decision-making, resulting in enhanced transparency, efficient problem solving, providing support and resources to address issues, promptly reducing delays and improving overall efficiency. And then along that, you will see risk mitigation and enhanced collaboration, faster feedback loop, where the executives can provide feedback on the organization's strategic direction and priorities during these meetings. So you see the practices are the same, but they unlock different capabilities at different levels of the organizations. And that's what I wanted to tie in for you. So the same survey kind of looked at what are the benefits most organizations were able to get from, adopting Agile. Again, the reasons for adoption and the benefits kind of correlated, right? And you see 47% want to adopt Agile to see business IT alignment improve. And then here you see 60% saw that improve. So we are doing something right, because there's correlation between what they wanted to adopt, what the reasons were for adoption versus the benefits that they saw. And they both kind of remained at the same level. Okay, so where are we headed with all the data points, right? What does it really mean for the industry and the VPs, the directors, the change champions of the organizations like us? What's the perception of Agile in today's climate? Is it set of practices? Is it just some techniques, or is it a set of tools? Is it methodology or mindset? And again, depending on who you talk to, you might get different kind of answers, right? But the good news is that we are headed in the right direction, and I will show you why in a little bit. So most organizations are still striving for maturity in their Agile journey, right? Looking to optimize the tools, the processes, the role types required to not only better serve their customers, but also to create a happy workforce, right? And you see that Agile has evolved in the last 20 some years, right? It kind of started as grassroots, right? With a set of guiding principles for software development, focusing mainly at the team level in the early years. And then as adoption kind of grew beyond individual teams to the other parts of the organization, the need for scaling became evident, right? Scaling practices became evident. And in the past 2 decades, and we've seen the emergence of a wide range of tools making it possible for better visibility and dependency management and organizational alignment beyond just the IT department, right? So with that, the same study that I talked about, Agile 2023, it also found that it is expected by 2024 that organizations are wanting to expand agility into areas beyond just IT, right? So we're starting to see a strong emphasis on creating an Agile culture within organizations, including transparency. There's a lot of effort and focus put on psychological safety, collaboration, and continuous improvement, where leaders are trying to dedicate, intentional capacity towards that. And Agile principles are starting to be more embedded in organizational values and leadership practices. So that's our outlook, right? And that's where we are headed. And I am super excited about that. Although there are some days that I wish, it was much better than that, but still, we're heading in the right direction. All right. So what is organizational agility? And what are the elements? What are the benefits? And are there some early indicators that would help us understand the challenges? And can we, get ahead of those, right? And what are those pillars? So again, by definition, organizational agility is an organization's ability to quickly and effectively respond to change, right? Adjust to the new market conditions and be able to innovate rapidly so they can stay relevant in a competitive market. So again, the rest of the webinar, I hope to talk about the pillars, the benefits, again, the challenges, and what you can do to help implement or accelerate organizational agility. Okay. All right, so the pillars of organizational agility. As I just talked about how important it is, right? It is crucial. Organizational agility is crucial to stay competitive in the market. And you can look at it from many different perspectives, but I look at it from the perspective of what is it that holds it together? What are the 3 main pillars to organizational agility, right? One of them is the strategic agility. Again, this pillar talks about or focuses on the organization's ability to not only set and adapt its strategic direction, but also focuses on its ability to experiment with different strategies, right? And pivot as quickly to stay competitive, because that's the key word, right? Being competitive and being relevant in the market. We'll talk more about it in a little bit, but again, when I think about strategic agility and as I understand, one of the examples that comes to my mind as I was preparing for this webinar was Blockbuster, right? They are a great example that missed the mark, that did not understand, that needed to, stay ahead of the curve, stay ahead of the market, and innovate and quickly respond. And then I think Netflix kind of like took it over, right? So more on that later. The next pillar is the operational agility. An organization's ability to optimize its processes and reduce waste and focus on continuous improvement. The third one is the cultural agility, right? And this focuses more on the mindset, the values, and the behaviors that not only enables, but also empowers and enhances agility in an organization, right? And I want to be able to help you understand that even though they are like 1, 2, 3, they're not in any particular order, right? They all kind of go hand in hand and go together and complement each other. So let's take a deeper look at strategic agility. So an organization's vision and strategy should inspire and motivate the people in it, right? Wouldn't you agree? Okay. It should align the organization to a common goal and be clear enough so everybody could speak to it, right? So what are some of the things that you need to look for in the strategic agility? Adaptability to change. One of the key components to strategic agility is the ability to proactively sense the need to change and respond to new market trends and foresee potential disruptions, right? Then you have this decision-making framework or decision-making process where you kind of require informed decision-making, and that often requires streamlining decision-making and empowering people at all levels, right? You need to determine and distinguish between the centralized and the decentralized decision needs, right? And you need to be able to make the right decision at the right time so there's not delay that kind of cascades down to your team. And for effective decision-making, leaders need to foster a culture of continuous learning and innovation, right? You need to be able to encourage employees to experiment and learn safely. For example, like hackathons and dedicating capacity for learning and innovating. And whether, depending on whatever framework you're following, if you're following scaled agile framework, they recommend an entire iteration if you have program increments. But again, you don't have to be a safe shop to follow these practices, right? You still could dedicate capacity each sprint or bake that into your daily work. The next aspect or the component of strategic agility is value stream funding. It requires you to invest beyond a project, and that's becoming more and more prominent and more understood in today's climate, right? Where the organizations are trying to identify the value streams and fund the value streams and fund the products instead of just the projects. And then lastly, align your strategic initiatives with the organization's purpose, vision, and mission. Defining your OKRs and tying them all the way down to your capabilities, your epics and features, so that everybody kind of understand what is it that they are working towards and what is it in the big picture. All right, so the next pillar in the organizational agility is the operational agility, right? Again, operational agility is an organization's ability to intentionally focus on improving its process, identify, and reduce waste, and focus on continuous improvement. And for that, you may need to choose the right model that works for you, iterate and evolve in it. And you may start with Scrum and realize you need to scale and implement scaling practices. And that's totally fine, as long as you're continuously improving your tools and processes and frameworks. The operational agility also requires flexibility, efficiency, and collaboration, right? Along with commitment and empowerment. Commitment to trust people, commitment to empower people to make decisions at various levels. and commitment from leadership to enable strong focus on optimizing the processes and tools. So I was talking to David Pointer earlier this morning, and I was walking this through, and he was like, hey, but you don't have technical excellence in there, right? And that was a great point. And that kind of like, a bulb went in my brain, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. Because another aspect of operational agility is your technical agility, right? And you need to ensure your systems are optimized. Maintaining excellence towards the technical stack requires intent, effort, and coordination, leading to organizational agility, right? So that's a very important aspect of that. The last pillar that we are going to be talking today is the cultural agility. Again, cultural agility, as we looked earlier, focuses on the cultural intelligence of an organization and its ability to recognize and also understand and acknowledge the cultural diversity. It goes beyond recognizing people from different culture, right? And cultural agility in today's globalized world is composed of people with like various personal, professional, and social settings. So it's very important to be aware of that, right? Focus on understanding an organization's diverse workforce and also recognizing that people from different backgrounds have different values and beliefs and communication styles. It requires an organization to work collaboratively and increase their self-awareness of biases and the stereotypes and intentionally work through those differences, right? This is something that's very close to my heart, the whole aspect of cultural agility, mainly because, I come from India. I come from a different cultural background. And early on, when I would talk to people, I would, especially when I was in, studying and learning, it's a common practice in India to like fold your hands, and that's a sign of respect. But, in a different culture, it's very like the culture here, it's like if you fold your hands, that's a sign of you being closed, right? You're not being open and you're like closed up. So those are some of the things that I understood, and I'm aware of that. I'm aware of my own biases. So when I'm talking to people, I always keep that in mind. I am more sensitive to the social climate, right? And that goes into say that that's how you kind of like prune the tree, right? To what Toby was talking about earlier. Showing empathy and respect for people's cultural differences, be more open to understand the communication styles and invest in developing skills to communicate clearly, especially learning to understand the nonverbal cues, right? As an organization, especially if you are striving for agility at the organizational level, it's important to invest time to get to know one another and develop a respectful and professional relationship, right? Dedicating time to learn more about conflict resolution and be more adaptable to one's behavior and approach, and be more curious about the why behind every action. The next important aspect of that is inclusivity, right? Organizations' efficiency around cultural agility also means that they have modified their policies and practices to make its people feel equal and included. Celebrating cultural festivals or taking interest in learning other perspectives, and maybe even like team bonding activities to celebrate each other are just a few of those examples, right? So, to wrap up on the pillars of org agility, each one of them contribute to an organization's ability to improve collaboration, increase innovation, and enhance motivation to build products and services, again, resulting in staying competitive in the global market, right? All right, so we've looked at the pillars and how they contribute towards the effective organizational agility. But what are the benefits of organizational agility? Why is it important? And while there are many benefits, I wanted to focus on just the three here today with the limited time that we have. And again, agility at the organizational level unlocks many capabilities, right? And I want to be able to talk about the competitive advantage in the market share, the improved innovation and creativity resulting in better customer satisfaction and creating that customer centricity, with customer being the main goal, right? All right, so let's take a little bit deeper look at competitive advantage and what does that mean? One of the benefits of organizational agility is the ability to respond quickly to changes in the market, right? Creating advantages amongst the competitive threat. So double clicking on that, market share and revenue growth expands, resulting in sustainability, right? Reputation in the market is enhanced and brand value goes up. And the organization is better positioned to maximize profits and reward their stakeholders. The next benefit is around the quality products with accelerated delivery, right? High quality products tend to accumulate less technical debt, which again is the cost of fixing your shortcuts or technical compromises made during development, right? And lower technical debt means that development teams can be more responsive to changes and allocate more time to innovation, rather than maintaining, older and retired products and such. So some of those things kind of relate to how it can benefit in the organizational agility in the long run. And with being competitive in the market, you also kind of have that stronger financial outfit to deal with market fluctuations. So again, that also results in better agility at the org level. The organizational agility also enables unity in mission, right? Enhances employee engagement and satisfaction. And employees are empowered to make decisions and take ownership of their work. And there's this heightened sense of team autonomy, right? And that leads to higher productivity and lower burnouts and a more positive work culture. It also improves, an organization's ability to work together harmoniously and effectively towards a common goal. And creating visibility across the organization unlocks the intrinsic motivation for the knowledge workers, right? And everybody in the organization is able to understand their part and the overarching goals and objectives of the organization. And regardless of their specific roles and responsibilities, the entire organization works towards a common mission. And everybody, have a common understanding of what is the vision, what is the mission, what are the strategic goals, and what are the strategic objectives that we are working towards. And everybody shares that accountability, creating that employee engagement or enhancing that employee engagement and satisfaction because everybody is part of that organization. Right? That's the other aspect of organizational agility's benefit. All right, so as the title suggests, customer centricity is a philosophy that puts customer at the center, right? And the idea behind customer centricity is to create a culture that is customer focused, attract, engage, and delight, right? And agility at the organizational level enables product innovation. This is something where you anticipate your customer needs and future market needs, right? Steve Jobs with Apple and Elon Musk with all the many innovations that he continues to make are, again, great examples of anticipating customer needs even before the customers themselves knew what they needed, right? I never knew. I definitely need an iPhone 15, right? So again, these are, some of the great examples of understanding the market and understanding what needs to be that next level of product innovation. It also kind of forces you to engage in direct customer feedback, right? And when you engage in that direct customer feedback, when you show that you care about the customer, not only with the innovation, but also with the direct feedback and direct engagement and interactions, not only between just the C-suite and maybe even like the product group, but even when you kind of bring them to the team level, when you bring them to interact with the development team level, they kind of understand that, okay, you're really serious about it, right? And they are able to appreciate all the efforts and appreciate all the ideas and the innovation and then the thought process behind it. And, when you are showing that much interest and effort, you naturally tend to retain customers, right? They tend to stay loyal to you. The next thing is unlocking a new market segment, right? So you are not only participating and staying ahead with the cutting edge and being competitive in the current market, but you are also able to unlock a new market segment to see where else you can go and explore and improve and participate, right? And of course, there are a lot of methods and ways on how you could do that. But again, these are some of the benefits that is unlocked by being agile at the organizational level. So again, in wrapping up the sections, while these are the benefits of the organizational agility, and the underlying capabilities enable agility at the org level, right? They kind of go hand in hand. All right, so we talked a lot about the pillars and the benefits of the organizational agility. Now let's look at what could be some of the challenges impeding all the good things that we reviewed, right? All right, bureaucracy. How does that matter? And how does that challenge, or how does that impede? We'll look at it in a little bit. So the next one is the resistance to change, and then the lack of compelling purpose. Yeah, so we'll double click on those. So bureaucracy, we've all been part of it. We've all experienced it, right? Traditional hierarchy and bureaucracy creates red tape and slows down the decision-making process, hindering an organization's agility, right? That's the bottom line. Employees are not empowered to make local decisions, and power is always centralized. And a management with many layers result in bottleneck and waste. Employees are not empowered, right? It kind of limits the team's autonomy. They can't make decisions even at the local context, and they have to wait for somebody at whatever level, whether it is manager or director, which are like 2 levels above, that may not have the local context, who may come back to the team members to ask for more information, right? If they are the ones that are making the decisions, you can imagine how that will cascade and result in delivering things slower and even creating confusions, right? Another telltale sign is what I call SPOF, or single point of failure. So an organization with many layers of management, you're focusing on creating one leader, right? Many of us have worked in environments where they have team leads or tech leads, and many of the team members rely on that one person, right? Versus creating many leaders and first among equals. And not only are there delays, not only is the team limited, in terms of autonomy or making decisions, they also, are impeded with conflicting messages from leadership, right? When you're waiting on decision-making process, it makes it more difficult for you to follow because you don't know who to listen to. Again, this was another great point that David Pointer made this morning when him and I were talking through, and that's so true, right? You not only have conflicting messages, but you also have conflicting priorities, right? You are not able to focus on one thing. There's a lot of context switching that's happening. So again, This is a big, big, big impediment that I have seen over and over again, where, you might have all the tools, you might have all the techniques, you may follow all the, your Scrum events, and you could follow all the practices. But if you're not looking at removing some of these hierarchy and bureaucracies, then you're back to square one, right? So the next one is resistance to change. For those of you that are familiar with Virginia Satir, there is this Satir curve, right? Or the Satir change model. This is the second stage that she talks about, where it's, you start with the change, your actual status quo, and then you go through the resistance, and then there's chaos, and then there's other stages, right? So resistance. People in organization don't just resist because they're bored, right? They resist because they're unsure, they're uncertain, and they're unaware of what lies ahead and how it will impact them. So not being intentional about the change will lead to that. And as an organization, you do understand or do you understand the compelling reason behind why you're choosing to implement Agile practices, right? What are the business outcomes you're hoping for? What are the capabilities you're trying to unlock? And not having thought through these often results in misalignment, right? Misalignment on the intent of the transformation, obviously resulting in resistance. Even more damaging is, when you're not communicating what those reasons are, because you're not creating visibility, and that leaves people on the ground more to imagine their own perceptions with the limited, or worse, conflicting information. And it's common to, see some resistance when you don't have that leadership support. But depending on the voice that is being heard, it can be amplified, right? The voice that is negative, it typically gets amplified, right? So leadership support here is integral, and it's significant that leaders ensure they have a good support system to answer the questions, schedule the trainings, provide the professional coaching, bring in professional coaches, and like skilled Scrum Masters at the team level. There should be a method to madness. Yeah. All right. So lack of compelling purpose. Again, starting the transformation without the why behind, right? Now, in many years, or like nearly the 2 decades of my experience, I have seen leaders that have gotten center stage and talked about a very compelling reason for why they must take on the transformation journey. And they've shared the implementation roadmap and have openly talked about how chaotic it is going to be, especially at the early stages of the transformation. I can't name names, but I remember one VP I worked with, and she called it Agile with capital A. I'm sure many of you worked in the same organization at the same time I was there, so you know who I'm talking about. And she was very intentional about it, and she was honest about feeling overwhelmed from the unknown and many of the changes, right? But with that, she was showing her human side to people in her organization. She was trying to connect with them at their level, right? And she was telling them that it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be not sure where this is going to go, because this is all new, but we're all in this together, right? And she would write in her monthly newsletter what Agile fear she overcame that month and what capability it unlocked for the organization. And she was very clear about explaining the why behind. And her main goal, like many organizations, was to increase the customer satisfaction, right? But she would narrow it down to the business capabilities. And then she would help them understand, hey, the big thing that I want to try and get out of that is improving predictability, but be realistic about what value can be delivered to the customer. and improving quality, right? So while focusing on the two, she was unlocking many agile capabilities with that, right? Products should be clearly defined, value alignment with coordinated value delivery, enabling your ability to forecast, and predictable delivery cadence, resulting in reduced cycle time and accelerating your time to market, right? So there's a lot that goes into it, but again, all I'm trying to say is be intentional about the why behind the transformation. And the other thing to keep in mind is pocket adoption versus transformation, right? Sometimes it's okay to just experiment with pilot teams and get a taste for a new thing. And you're starting with the basic techniques like, daily scrum, your light sprint planning, or a quick demo. But that must intentionally morph into other teams, right? Your team of teams, and unlock other capabilities, such as your clear team purpose. What's the team's purpose? What are they aligned to? What's the value alignment? Your ability to forecast, and so on. So again, without that, agility doesn't expand beyond the team, right? So an organization only focusing on team level agility is impeded from practicing or experimenting or even like benefiting from the organizational agility practices. All right. The other thing is lack of prioritization, right? Another big boulder in the way of org agility is lack of clear prioritization. And in the absence of priority, everything becomes a priority, right? Everything becomes something that must be delivered, and nothing gets delivered because there's only one number one priority, right? Okay, so I'm assuming, and I'm certain most of or all of that resonated with many of you. So what do? Do we understand the pillars? We recognize the benefits, and we acknowledge the challenges. Now what? You hold the key, right? Each one of you hold a key. In my many years of experience, I've come to understand that leaders are not the impediments. Lack of leadership is, right? Agile is not the impediment. Lack of education and training is. And people in the organization are not the impediment. Lack of empathy and perseverance is, right? So with that, where do we go? So my request to you today, if you were to take away anything, let me motivate you to go back to your organization, to your leaders, and ask them help to create leaders at different levels, right? Work with them to foster a learning culture. Help them to be intentional about the change. Start small, but have a vision, and create the sense of urgency, and revisit and reevaluate to choose the right operating model. And it doesn't have to be framework agnostics, right? Framework is just a tool. Create the sense of urgency, organize around value, foster a learning culture, and be intentional about the change, and of course, choose the right model. And when we're talking about creating sense of urgency, I would recommend that you assess the current state, right? Do a baseline assessment of current state. Meet with the leaders at all levels and acknowledge the gaps. Identify the compelling purpose, inspiring both the hearts and the minds on the pressing need for the change, and choose prioritized business outcomes that you wish to see improve in the first round, and communicate that widely. And employ change agents and provide them with the necessary trainings and tools, and provide them with open support, because again, we're recommending change champions. Empowering them with the decision authority is super, super important. The next is organizing around value, right? And analyze your organization's process and workflows to identify your value stream, and break down those value streams both into operational and development. And once you've identified those value streams, break them down into smaller manageable components, right? And organize your teams around the value, and form cross-functional teams. And each team should have clear ownership of value stream or a portion of it. And that includes accountability of defining, delivering, and maintaining the value stream components. And then the one last thing around this is explore outcome-based funding, right? You have seen many people fund the projects, and that doesn't go a long way, right? But funding value stream model focuses on funding initiative that promise to deliver specific business outcomes. There's, people call it outcome-based funding as well. But again, those are the ways to bring value to your organization. The next is fostering, went too fast. Fostering a learning culture, right? Enable continuous learning. Help your people manage WIP. Start with visualizing your workflow and then break it down all the way to limiting work in progress and prioritizing your tasks and creating batch sizes and swarming, right? And above all, learn to say no, because avoiding overcommitting yourself is a big deal, right? And then obviously allow some slack time so people are not 100% dedicated, 100% allocated. Busy people all the time doesn't mean that they are productive, right? That's just the general assumption that people don't allow for vacuum space. Just two more things, and then we'll kind of wrap up and look at the key takeaways. Be intentional about change, right? Acknowledge your current state and make it visible. A baseline assessment always helps to understand the landscape, right? In creating a transformation roadmap and making that visible to everybody that is part of the transformation. And form an agile leadership team and seek leaders from all levels, not only just from, like the directors and above, but maybe even from the team level, and make them part of a group of people that are empowered to make local decisions and influence change, right? And ensure they can dedicate time to work on these backlog of transformation items. And don't forget to communicate the wins. I added an image for something that I have usually done. Initially when I try to talk to the leaders, I create this roadmap of, hey, this is how, you should go roll out your transformation or roll out your effort, so that everybody can understand what to expect and where to go from there and how long it could take, right? And then, of course, choosing the right model. I talked about being framework agnostic, right? Assessing your organization and identifying the objectives and goals and choosing an outcome-based model like this. So this is called Path to Agility. This is something that I have used in many of the organizations that I have supported. And it kind of basically is an outcome-based model that I use to help leaders identify the compelling purpose for change. And these are the 9 business outcomes. So typically we recommend executives to choose 2 or 3 business outcomes and draft a vision for the transformation. Identify the reasons in terms of like why change must happen now. What's the sense of urgency, right? And then you detail out the impacts and benefits of change for the people in the organizations and the customers and the stakeholders. And typically, depending on which one you choose, that further unlocks more of like your agile outcomes. And then these agile outcomes further break down into your agile practices, right? So this is how it goes. So you have your business outcomes, which are mapped to your agile outcomes that are achieved through your agile capabilities, which are implemented by agile practices, right? So I said a lot there, but I promised I would leave you with key takeaways. So there are a lot to unpack, and I'm happy to talk to anybody to help them unpack even more. But again, some of these or many of these, should be applied at the organization level so that you can reap the benefits of what it is, right? As I started earlier today, an hour ago, to talk about many of these could be applied at the team level, and you will achieve team excellence. But those can be applied at the system and the organization level as well, so that you can unlock organizational agility, right? So with that, I see Toby is back, and that's my cue to wrap. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent presentation.
Thank you. All right, so with that, Toby, back to you.
Thank you. I'm going to pass the baton on to Lakshmi.